Wow, look at all these pigeons. Oh, they're pretty cool too. Hey, they're pretty cool. Look at that. That's a lot of rats of the sky. They're all pretty mellow though. They're not going too nuts. Oh, that one was close. That's pretty cool. Hey, welcome to the channel. Brett Voyage here. Thanks for hitting on that title or thumbnail. Now, as you can tell by the title, I'm just doing a bit of an analysis of my interpretation of why life's so hard in the West now, as of 2025. And it has been for quite a while. Okay, where do I start? Let's start with education. You are educated not to think, but to do as you're told. The regimen is you come in at a certain time, you eat your meals at a certain time, you follow the workload by your teacher / supervisor, and then at the end of the day you can go home. Problem with school is they even give you homework now just to keep you that little bit more under control. And I'm not advocating anarchy, I'm just saying it's control. So you're educated now to go out and get a job. Now, the job will decide how much you're paid per hour. Now that hourly rate will decide your worth in the community. So the lower paying job, not really worth in a community, but ironically, they're the most essential workers, like the cleaners, like the delivery people. As we saw at a certain time in history, they are really essential, but we're not going to pay them much. We'll pay more for the entertainers that keep you absolutely distracted, that keep your mind off what's really happening and on, oh, this is all great. Oh, and it's not. Okay. Now, in the next phase, what they do is they get you addicted to debt. So you've got to buy a house, you've got to pay off that house via a mortgage, which is French for loan until death. Smart, they even tell you in the title. So once you're all hooked up with that and you're imprisoned into your job, you're not going to get time to think of anything else. You're just gonna work. That's why the screws are turned on now. So now what they do is put you in debt, you don't question anything, and then have you noticed the same things happen through the same electoral cycle over and over again. So what they do then is really all the parties are about the same. They're all after the same thing. Their own cushy setup, they get a good pension, they get well looked after, and you don't. You have to live in fear so that you keep working. All right, so now they've got you set up with all of that. Time to turn the screws up. Prices go up through inflation, which doesn't just magically happen. It's controlled and organised. Because who decides the cost of goods? The companies that have lobbyists to the government wherever they're working and lobby them and tell them, oh, we're going to go up to here, we're going to go up to there. Then the government, being really smart, turns around and says, you can't do that, I'll stop you. But have they ever stopped them? No. So the prices continue to go up. Artificially, it's still the same product, but they're telling you, oh, it costs more. But they outsourced all of your jobs and all of the manufacturing overseas, making it cheaper. But you won't get the benefit of that because everything within your country is going to cost more because they'll put a tariff or a levy or extra on it. Oh, very clever. So now everything's more expensive in the West. You're in debt for everything. And then there's a superb tax system that taxes everything you earn and everything you do, sometimes a couple of times. Because the money you earn, we'll tax it. I'll put petrol in my car, we'll tax it. I'll buy the car, we'll tax it. Oh, the roads, we'll tax it. My license, taxed. Wow, so absolutely everything is taxed. This is a very clever design because it doesn't actually go to anything. It just keeps you at a certain level, not getting above that level. It will keep you at, say, 0. So you're not really falling behind, you're not getting ahead, you're right at 0. And for the rest of your life, you'll be at 0 with the promise that just maybe when you're nearly dead, you'll get some time off. And that's the carrot, because everything works on a carrot and stick. Stick, if you step out of line, i.e. don't pay your taxes and try and work other ways. And B, the carrot. Don't worry, at the end of this, you'll have a house worth a lot of money and you'll get a pension. But by the time you get to that, the inflation has sucked all that dry and you're left with nothing but fear. That's the basic blueprint of the West and what's been happening. So I guess the lesson from all of this is that anything they tell you to do, you've got to do the opposite. Yeah. So when they tell you go into debt for education, don't. When they tell you to go into debt to just live in your house, don't. You have to buy the latest and greatest car, don't. If you do the opposite of everything they tell you to do, a la George Costanza, you'll get the opposite result, which is the opposite of what you're living in right now. So that's basically it in a nutshell. There's a few other complications and other things that happen, but other than that, I think that's the grand scheme. Also, within the Australian economy, it's even more dangerous because all we do is dig stuff out of the ground and send it overseas. That's it, really. We have no manufacturing, it's not a very complex economy, and our housing bubble. So once you have a housing bubble and only dig stuff out of the ground, as soon as that loses value, you're pretty well stuffed. And it eventually will lose value. All bubbles burst. The next part of the puzzle is media and consumerism. This is where they fine-tune their plan and it pays them huge dividends. It is the icing on the cake for them. Okay, this is where the perfect storm happens. Once the media, together with all the companies that want you to consume, join forces, they can then direct the narrative exactly how they want it. They can fill you with whatever information suits them, helps you continue to consume to make you feel better, and the whole cycle continues. You're like the little rat on that wheel, little hamster. Run, 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 run. Buy, 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 buy. Listen to what they're telling you. Whatever the story is, they're telling you the truth. Really? And then it just continues on. Hopefully until the very end of your life, and then the next generation takes over and does the same. So that's basically why the West is the way it is. It has to be that way for a certain percentage to live a certain way, and the rest of us to keep them there, comfortable and happy and untouched. It's a genius plan, really. It's harsh, it's cruel and pretty unfair, but it's a very clever plan and it's worked for decades. Crumbling a bit now as people are beginning awake, realise what's going on, have alternative ways of finding out information. That's been huge. And now the very globalisation of the world has actually backfired a little bit, because we can now go and see what other countries are doing, what other nationalities do. And I myself have become pretty much an overseas foreign worker. I work in Australia being Australian, but I grab the money and use it in another country where it's cheaper to live. Hence why I'm wandering around here in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, on my week off. I'm very lucky, I do FIFO work, so I work 2 weeks I get a week off and off I go. So I'm pretty lucky, really. You should do the same. You really need to do the opposite of what they're telling you. Because you know what the definition of insanity is. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. A lot of people do that.